Hey, what's going on, guys? It's ETAPRIME back here again. Today we're going to be taking a look at the world's smallest Game Boy Advanced SP. Well, when it comes down to it, it's not really a Game Boy, but it will play GBA games and a ton of other emulators, even up to PS1. This is known as the FunKey S, and it's a keychain-sized emulation device that's kind of modeled after the SP when you think about it. We have that clamshell design, but we actually do have more buttons here. So yeah, this thing is really neat, but when it comes down to it, this is a very niche product. I mean, this is definitely not comfortable to play on. It's an awesome little idea, and it's kind of amazing that they were able to pack this much power into a tiny device like this. But it is fully functional, and like I mentioned, you can even play PS1 games on this device. And they actually run really well. We'll take a look at those by the end of this video, but another thing that I've seen running on this, which is in early development, is N64. Now, I don't expect every N64 game to be playable on this device, but when it comes to the easier to run stuff, I mean, there's a good chance we'll get full speed out of things like Mario 64. Now, when it comes to the specs of the FunKey S, for the CPU, we have a dual-core Cortex A7 CPU running at 1.2 GHz, 64 megabytes of DDR2 RAM, a 32 gigabyte micro SD card does come pre-installed, but this is expandable. The screen is a 1.54 inch IPS at 240 by 240. We have a 410 mAh battery, and it's running their custom Linux operating system known as FunKey OS. So I opted to pick up the Atomic Purple version, but they also offered two other colors, Original Purple and Retro Gaming Gray. Personally, I'm a big fan of Atomic Purple, and I think they did a great job with this coloring. So here it is. I mean, this thing is absolutely tiny. We have that 1.54 inch 240 by 240 IPS display. And for being such a small display with a lower resolution, it is super clean. I mean, it looks really good on this handheld. As you can see, the operating system is very reminiscent of Emulation Station. We'll just go ahead and start up Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, whether you're in the main menu or a game, just press the menu button and we have a few options. Volume, brightness, we also have our save states here, and I'm not sure how many it supports per game. But there's more than enough. We can load. We can also change the aspect ratio. We have a few to choose from, but personally I find leaving it stock is the way to go on this smaller screen. It's got a single speaker built in, but it doesn't sound bad for its form factor. I do have the volume all the way up for this video. I'll give you a little sound clip here. Yeah, in my opinion, it does get plenty loud, and these games are fully playable. As you can see, this thing is absolutely tiny, and of course you will miss-hit a button here and there, but overall, everything that I've tested so far has run really well. I'm super impressed by how small this thing is, and the performance we're getting out of it. As we know, it doesn't take a lot to run these retro games, but seeing it all running in a super small form factor handheld like this is pretty neat in my opinion. Now, if you do end up getting one of these, it's not going to come preloaded with any great games. There are some freeware games preloaded for basically each system, but in order to add games, you will need to connect it to a PC, but they've made the process really easy. So basically, in order to add more games, we're going to plug this in using the included micro USB cable, plug it right into my Windows machine. I'll press the menu button and find Mount USB. I'll verify that I want to mount, and it'll show right up on my PC as a removable drive. That way, I can drag and drop my ROMs into the correct folders. So once you have the FunKey S connected to your PC, you're going to see it as a removable device, and inside of here we have our game folders, or our ROM folders. WonderSwan all the way up to Atari Lynx. I got to stuff in basically everything here except for Atari Lynx, so we'll go into Atari Lynx. You can see that this folder is empty. None of these games are on the system yet. I've got some on my desktop here, and all I need to do is drag them right over. I unzipped everything that I have to go on the FunKey. So if you do have zip files, I recommend extracting them. But when it comes to the links, they're going to be .lnx. Now, we've got the games on here, but we don't have any box art. In order to add box art, all you really need is the box art per game, and it needs to be named exactly the same as the game. So here I have some PNGs. Here's ABP. Right over here, ABP, All Points Bulletin, USA. Got it named exactly the same. So all I really need to do is take all of these, place them over here. I'll have to overwrite that one. But now I'll have the games and box art added to my FunKey S. It's actually really easy to do. Alright, so we've already seen some Sega Genesis running on this little unit. Runs really well. Same thing here with SNES. This is F-Zero. And as you can see, performance is great. I'm actually really surprised at how well this little D-pad is working out. I'm able to take these corners here. Now, one cool thing about the FunKey S is I'm going to go ahead and shut it. It's automatically going to shut down to save power. I'll give it a second just to make sure it's fully shut down. Once I reopen it, it's automatically going to resume from exactly where I was in that game. Now, I would definitely recommend pausing the game before you shut it, but that's a cool little feature. It just kind of gives us a quick save point there when we shut the lid on it. So now I'm going to move over to some other emulators. Here we have some Geo Pocket, Geo Pocket Color, and it runs these games at full speed. Performance is great here. It really doesn't take much to run these. Now there's one other little feature that I wanted to show you here. If I do a quick exit and forget to save, it's totally fine because once I boot that game back up, it's going to ask me if I want to resume that game. So it's going to take me right back to where I was. I could always start a new game or just resume it, just in case you forget to save your progress. One of my favorite consoles to emulate on these handheld devices is PC Engine, and as you can see here, it's working great. So this thing has PC Engine covered. And since this is really shaped like an SP, I figured we'd test out some Game Boy Advance games. Not bad at all. It does look like there might be a little bit of frame skip going here with this one. This is Sonic Advance 3, but overall, I mean, it is playable on this thing. And the final emulator I wanted to test on the FunKey S was PS1. Here we have Spyro, Year of the Dragon, and surprisingly enough, I mean, it's running decently. This is pretty awesome seeing these PS1 games running on a little tiny device like this. I did want to test 2 more PS1 games because I don't think it's going to run every single one at full speed. So next up, we have Tekken 3 here, and I do notice a little bit of lag, but it's not as bad as I thought it would be. And I mean, overall, playability really isn't that bad with this game here, but we do need to test one of the harder PS1 games to emulate, and that's going to be Bloody Roar 2. And just as I thought, we got a lot of lag here, so this little device is having issues with this game here, but when it comes to Bloody Roar 2, this is a harder one to emulate, and this is kind of my go-to test for lower-end devices. So yeah, the FunKey S definitely isn't for everybody. This is more of a little niche item. I mean, we got a super tiny handheld. It is a bit hard to play. It fits on your keychain. But performance out of this little thing is way better than I ever thought it would be. I am a big fan of this screen here. It does look really good. I'm not sure how well it's going to translate on camera, but to the naked eye, for being a 240 by 240, 1.54 inch screen, it is actually really crystal clear. We've got all the buttons we need for everything this can really emulate, except for analog sticks for PS1, but remember, there weren't that many games for PS1 that required those analog sticks. The DualShock came out later in the life cycle of the PS1, so a majority of the games are fully playable with just a D-pad. Does have those triggers around back. Now, I really didn't utilize them with any of the games that I tested in this video, but they're there and they do work. So final thoughts on this thing. Obviously, it's small. You will miss some buttons. It's a niche item, and overall, I do think it's a rockin' little handheld. It's pretty cool to have this attached to your keychain and be able to play all of your favorite Game Boy, NES, SNES, and Game Boy Advance games on something like this. But I wouldn't want this to be my daily driver or the handheld that I use every day. There are plenty of bigger options out there. This is more of a little party trick, but for what it is and how it performs, it's a pretty awesome little handheld. So that's going to wrap it up for this video. Really appreciate you watching. If you're interested in learning more about the FunKey S, I will leave a few links in the description. If you have any questions or you want to see anything else running on this device, just let me know in the comments below. But like always, thanks for watching.